Hi, everybody. It's Zane with Sailing Views. I have a very special treat. I have Bill Hardesty, one of the best professional sailors there is in the U.S. I've known Billy for a number of years. We've spent plenty of hours in a van driving across the country together, sailing against each other, with each other, you name it. And I think I just lost Billy. So,
I had
well, there
coming
you are.
call. I'm back.
All right, you're back. Okay, I was wondering what was going on. All right, but yeah, so there's a quick introduction of Bill Hardesty. Bill, how you doing?
I'm good here at San Diego Yacht Club.
All right, very good. So, just for the people out here that don't know, how many championships have you won? I know there aren't very many boats you haven't won them in, but how many have you won?
Currently at 12.
12. Yeah, that's a pretty good number. I'm not even going to list the boats because I know you've won them in more boats than most people ever get to sail. Well, with all those championships and all the things you've done, who helped you get started? Now, don't give me the standard, my father, my parents. You know, who got you started? Who influenced you? Who helped you out a little bit?
I'll try to keep the short story going, but essentially I started in the Hobie 16 with my dad. You didn't
Mm,
want to hear that, but
yeah,
that was at about 6, 7 years old. About 9 years old, I started sailing my own Sabbath here in San Diego, and that was a Mission Bay Yacht Club.
yeah,
So, it was at that point basically my freedom to, go sail around and do whatever I wanted to do. So he, gave me a lot of flexibility to just go out on my boat and do what I wanted to do. So I would sail, what people are calling forbidden nowadays, sail the Sabbath to the ocean or go out by myself. God forbid I was out in a boat by myself.
yeah,
And now everybody needs a coach boat or other, hand holding. But that was really exciting for me back in the day, and it gave me the opportunity to just have my freedom, develop my skills, and just keep going. At that point, there was a time I think 14 years old, switched over to San Diego Yacht Club, started sailing more here, Laser Two, Revits. Then I started traveling with you guys in Team Lyra. At that point, I'd say one of my main mentors there was, Nicky Adamson, and he, was training for the Olympics. He went to the games in '96, and so he basically put the work ethic in us, and we had to work out in the morning and sail all day, and there was no whining, quitting, or if you were not feeling well, it just didn't matter. You still get out there and go sailing. It's just that's how it was. We traveled in the van together. There was driving all night long, and it was basically the be tough and let's move on to the next thing of how are we going to win this regatta, not worrying about the gear, the whining. You fix your stuff, you get going. That was sort of the Nick Adamson approach to life.
yeah,
And so then I went away to college and so forth, and that was a good experience. 4 years of short course college racing. um, got back and started sailing more Etchels and stuff. I'd say sort of as my adult life, I'd say my biggest mentor is probably Vince Bruin. He was one of my mentors in the Etchel, and he was a sailmaker. I worked at various sail lofts around San Diego, and it was sort of never afraid to take the sail apart, make the changes, go test it, and just whatever it took to get a little improvement going. As a youth, actually, there was another guy named Earl Elms.
hmm,
He was a legend in the snipe, and his approach was the same. If we needed a better rudder and you couldn't buy one, well, we just built one. You made a jig in the garage and you glue pieces together and shape the thing as you wanted it and fiberglass it. Whatever was necessary, he would not be afraid to build it. It's hard to do that now with all the vacuum bagging and carbon and all the rest of these these production manufacturing techniques. But it basically, if you had a breakdown, you just get the glue out and fix it, whatever the task is. And if you don't try, you don't learn. So you have to sort of again, from the Nick Adamson approach, don't whine about it, fix it and get going. And so that was the between Earl as kid and Nicky as sort of the sailor, and then Vince Bruin as the sailmaker and adult sort of mentor. That say that's sort of how it worked. And then I sort of, went on my own and started doing my own things. And, I try to bring that same drive to the crews and people that I'm sailing with.
yeah. Well, that's very good. And, I was with you doing the whole Nicky Adamson routine, and yeah, that was that was a pretty brutal experience. You know, the way we lived our life, and you know, a bunch of kids having fun one night, and then wake up bright and early, go sail for, 6-7 hours a day, rinse and repeat every day. That was definitely a one heck of an experience. All right, so with all this sailing, when did you think you were actually good? When did you realize, I'm good? I need to keep doing this.
I was probably at like youth champs in in the high school days.
Yeah.
I've won the double-handed youth champs with John Alden Mead in Long Beach at age 16, and we thought we were good, but we didn't really know if we were good or not. And then the next year, I went on to win the single-handed youth champs, and then I was sort of like, okay, I can do this in a couple of different boats, and so I guess it was probably at that point. And then the colleges started calling to recruit, and then to be a little bit ahead of yourself because you really don't even know what you don't know, but
yeah,
thought we were good at least.
Yep. All right, so Bill, what are you doing for a living these days? I know what you do, but for everybody else, what is your real job? Or
well,
I know right now it's a little different,
yeah.
but
when the season is open, it is pro sailing, and now everything is canceled for the most part. There is a glimmer of hope. Chicago Nude isn't canceled, and then there's a Verve Cup and a few other Midwest regattas that are hopeful for my schedule this year. But otherwise, I was planning to a little more into the offshore world, and I was going to do all the offshore races here in San Diego and up the coast. I was planning Civic Cup, San Francisco to Hawaii on my Hobie 33.
Oh, nice.
All that's been canceled, and so now I'm hopeful for this stuff in the Midwest, and I'm also working with the Volvo team for Mexico, the Viva Mexico team. So we're putting a team together for that, for the ocean race. I don't know if I'm going to race on the boat or not, but I'm going to definitely go do some training with them and some tryouts, and we'll see how we go.
I got you. All right. So what is your favorite boat? Because I know you've been on a ton of them. What's your favorite boat and why?
Oh, my favorite boat. I mean, if it was just a purist, go sailing for the favorite boat, it would probably be the Moth.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's exciting. It's foiling fast. It's life on the knife edge, and you get punished hard when you make a mistake, and it's athletic. So it's got a lot of different things. It's technical, and yeah. So I had to sell my. I'd like to get back in at some point.
Yeah. All right. So I know we're having a little bit of connection difficulties, but I'm gonna keep working through it and asking you questions. Where do you see the sport of sailing going? I mean, what's the future? What can you see down the road?
I think we have a lot of uncertainty, to be honest. I think that we're going to have to wait out and see exactly how much damage the economy's taken, and then that'll translate into how many of these boat owners are going to still get out there and travel.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. The other aspect is is this virus going to continue to haunt us and lock down travel and lock down people sitting on boats next to each other, and we need to be able to sit on a boat next to each other and not be afraid of the guy in the front sneezing and everybody else dying halfway through the regatta. And so
yeah.
Right now it's a little early. I'd say we have a couple of years of not as big as it was last couple of years, and then it should get back to the same speed. It seems that guys with money are making good positions to make more money, and it seems that these bailouts are helping a lot of people as well. So we're hoping for the best.
Well, now I know in your part of the world out in San Diego, you've got tons of people, tons of money, tons of sailing. Where I'm at in little Alabama, we don't have very many boats. We get 15 boats on the starting line, and we're pretty happy with it. So if it wipes out any more boats, we're not going to have much. So
right,
like I said, we're hoping it rebounds a little quicker than that. All right. So what's the best regatta or the best trip you've been on?
Best regatta, best trip.
Yeah. Something that jumps out in your mind as just a great time.
The very first one was, I would say, I just got back from the San Diego to Puerto Vallarta race, and it was on my Hobie 33, was a little bit of we don't know what to expect scenario because it's camping on a little boat. I
Yeah.
did the Transpac last year on the Pac 52. That was fun, but the Pac 52, it's a big, powerful monster. You're wet the whole time. It's dark and loud, and
Yeah.
it's got a lot of other aspects to it. You're either driving, grinding, or trimming, and it was a grind. The Hobie was lighter loads. Comfortably, it was probably similar. You didn't get wet. It was a dry trip the entire way, so it was comfortable in that regard. And pulling on the spinnaker sheet was just not that hard. So we were out in front the whole race, so that was good as well. Then we corrected overall to win. So
Nice.
then you arrived to Puerto Vallarta, straight into the taco shop, have a couple of cervezas, and right there at the resort, as the winner. So that was an epic trip.
Yeah.
7 days on a Hobie 33 is it's an adventure.
I can imagine. I can imagine. All right. So conversely to that, what was your worst trip? Worst experience?
Oh, worst trip. I don't know. I try to block those out, but I'm sure I can come up with one. I mean,
Yeah.
I can remember some road trips where we were, with our van days, living in the van. We were driving across country, and at 4 a.m, the guys wake me up and say the van's smoking and it's no more power. We don't know what's going on, and so we spent like 2 days reading service manuals and digging through junkyard, rebuilding the engine and the road, the gas station. We put a new head on, did a bunch of other modifications, got back on the road, barely did the regatta in Santa Cruz, and that was kind of a grueling, miserable experience, but we got it done.
Yeah. I know in the Team
I'll
Lyra days,
I'll be
we had a
honest.
lot of those.
And then the other bad trip, I remember we went to, you don't think Key West Race Week is going to be bad, but we went to Key West one year, and it was below freezing temps at night. We wake up in the morning with our, ready to go sailing in Key West clothing, and it's, in the 40s and 50s all week. That was tough. West Marine sold out of jackets, so we were all freezing our butts off for a week of sailing in Key West. Never thought that would have happened, but the sailing was good. It was just a tough condition, and it was not expected. So
Yeah. I can understand that. I've been there too. All right. So what's your what is the most interesting thing you've seen floating by you? Because I know you're on the water a lot. There's got to see something floating by.
well, I was once at a Melges 24 regatta, and this green boat came floating by me.
A green boat? I can imagine which
And then
one.
they started yelling, "How y'all doing?" and everything, and it was you.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to see. That's for sure.
What's the most interesting thing floating by me? We saw whales breaching off Baja, Mexico. That was a pretty exciting moment. And in the middle of the night, you would hear them slapping their tails along the surface of the water. I don't know if it was a mating thing or I don't know exactly why they do it, but
Yeah.
there wasn't much wind, and it was just a slap, 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 and it was pretty exciting.
That would probably scare me to death. So,
I've never seen out there sailing. I've never seen, dead bodies or, very few dead animals. Every once in a while you'll see a bird or a seal or something, but, nothing that exciting. We saw some sharks and we saw some other things out in the ocean, various trips, flying fish landing on the side of the boat.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of flying fish. All right, so what's your best role on a boat? What's your best job?
Typically tactics. Sometimes I do, sometimes I excel as a helmsman, but the majority of my days, these days are sailing on somebody else's boat as either tactician, main trimmer, sort of in the afterguard,
Yeah.
sort of making decisions.
All right. Well, I'll remember to bring you on and put you on bow on the green boat.
Right, that'd be fun.
Make you do bow for me. All right. Are you an aggressive or conservative sailor? Now, I've sailed against you a lot, so I have my own views, but are you aggressive or conservative?
I like to think that I play to the competition. If I'm sailing against, the guys that are considered aggressive, the Terry Hutchisons, John Kosteckis, and, Vascos of the world, it's going to be, you know what you're getting into, and it's going to be a hard fought battle, and whoever wins is going to probably have to be aggressive at some point. And if you're getting out here in San Diego in the Etchell fleet with all the guys that we've known for 3 decades, and we're out having fun with our neighbors and friends, it's a different deal. You let the guy cross, you might give him room at the mark, and you just keep fighting, and you don't. There's no need to be yelling at people and then having a bad evening here when you're just trying to go out and have some fun. So if you were to ask other people, they'd probably say I'm on the aggressive side, but I don't know. I try not to be sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I know my aggressive nature, and to me, you've always seemed very conservative. So.
Oh, good. Well, thank you, James.
All right. So, what's the best maneuver, the greatest maneuver you've ever pulled off in a race?
The greatest maneuver.
Great start, mark rounding, just something
Right.
miracle happened.
The one thing that stands out when you ask that question is I was a 16, 17-year-old, youth sailor. We were sailing the FJ Nationals, rounded the leeward mark, and the shroud broke. The port shroud broke. We did a left turn at the bottom mark. The port shroud broke, and the mast leaned over, and the mast base was still in the boat, but it was leaning against the side tank.
Yeah.
So we proceeded to tack on the starboard. We had a good shroud on starboard side, and you wanted to go right in the race, and Newport Beach, you had to go up the coast and right side, and so required some quick thinking, and we removed the headstay, pulled it back. It was about 8 inches too long, something like that. So we tied some knots in it, pulled the pin, pinned it on the side shroud, tacked back onto port, and it wasn't tight by any means, but it stayed up. Yeah. And then we finished the race. That race we finished in third. We actually were going pretty well. And then the next race, we ended up between races, we found a coach boat that had some seizing wires. So we tipped the boat over onto the coach boat, and we seized the shroud out to the tip of the spreader, the new shroud, which was the headstay with 2 knots now instead of just 1. And then we won the next 2 races with that setup.
Wow.
And so that was a lesson, actually. And loose rig was fast.
Yeah.
And from that point on, in the FJ at least, we always sailed with a very loose rig because of that. You tighten it up, and it didn't go any better. But with the loose one, it seemed excellent.
See, breakdowns sometimes are good things.
Well, save the day, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. I know you've been with a lot of good boats and a lot of really good programs, and some famous boats and programs. What's your favorite program? Favorite project you've been involved in? What do you think?
Oh, I
without getting yourself in trouble. Yeah.
I know, right?
Uh-huh.
Try to pick some good ones. I sail with some really interesting and very sort of successful people. I did a long number of years, almost a decade with Flash Gordon on the Far 40.
Yeah.
And Helmut Jan, famous architect. He's quite an interesting character. Very driven, very, very organized, and really knew the game well after a lifetime of racing, and we were able to get up to speed and ended up winning the world championship with that class in the Far 40 with Helmut, and so that was exceptional. I had a lot of fun in the Melges 20 with John Taylor, and he he's a fun character. He's a beer distributor, so there was no shortage of beer laying around in the cooler.
Nice.
And then we had some minor success, and I told John one day, I said, you need to get more fit. You need to be able to squat in the back of the boat and cross the boat without stumbling and whatever. So he played tennis, I think, 2 times a day for the next few months, and got fit, had a lot of the leg strength that was needed. Those boats are kind of shallow and small. And then we went on, after doing some tuning testing, to win the world championship in that boat. And then another guy who is sometimes difficult to get along with, but I had a ton of fun with John Kilroy. Mm-hmm. And John Kilroy, he always brought the drive. Every time we would get out there on the race course, he would, recall what we talked about at the debrief or the morning session, and he would say, okay, here's what we talked about, and here's the plan, and he's structure it all. And I'll be honest, it was a relief to not have the energy all coming from me.
Yeah.
Where it's nice. He's driving the charge, and he wants it to be better, and so he would make a plan, and then we would execute it, and that actually converted into a lot of success for us. And I could see how he's so successful in his development world. because he probably brings that to every aspect of his life. I'm sure he does. And so, you know, you got to be able to take the good with the bad and learn as much as you can from everybody. You learn a little bit of good and a little bit of bad from everyone you encounter. And
Yep.
that's sort of been the fun adventure through this whole thing.
Yep. Well, it's always a learning experience, that's for sure. All right, so the next question is America's Cup. You love it, you hate it, are you involved in it? What are you thinking?
I'm not involved with it, and I don't hate it. I think it's something that it has an interesting position in the sailing world right now. It's very small sailing teams,
Yeah.
big design and build teams, and initially the small sailing teams were designed to keep the cost down, but that kind of all went to the wayside with these foiling monohulls, or I don't know what they're going to exactly look like on the race course, but they don't look like the monohulls that I race. And,
Yeah.
as far as I don't really like the fact that there's no real spot for me there, other than driving or doing tactics. But you're going to have to be you have to be a super fit machine these days to get on those crews.
Yeah.
And so the guys there are real athletes. They're working out all day. They're working out in the morning, then they work out on the boat all day, and then they come in, they eat their protein shake and hit the gym again.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how it's got to be on those programs. And I like the match racing of the old version 5 America's Cup boats. So we'll see what happens.
I gotcha. All right, so what do you have planned in the future? I mean,
my future is hopefully this Volvo thing goes, or what Ocean Race they're calling it now. Hopefully that goes with the Mexican team, and I can be involved with that in one capacity or another. Other than that, there's some TP52 sailing. There's a lot of J70 sailing that's all been canceled, but it's still out there on the calendar, and hopefully that comes back in full swing like it was.
Yeah.
And then there's hopefully some more of my sailing on the Hobie 33, doing some more offshore racing on that. And you got to sort of mix the working with the man with the getting out on your own boat. And I've always done that with I had my Laser 2, my Laser, my Etchel. I had a Star for a little while. I even sailed a Fin for a little while, and then I had an F-18 catamaran for a few years, and then I thought, I need to get back into developing what's next for me. And I thought, the offshore world, I haven't done much of that, so I've been focusing on that more. And we just need to get the opportunity to get back out there. My boat's still down in Puerto Vallarta on the trailer at the boatyard. My father said he's going to ride it out down in Puerto Vallarta, so they're down there still in the condo on the beach.
Nice.
And we're just waiting for the travel okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck for you on that. All right, couple more questions. What do you think about the state of women sailing or women in sailing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's been there's been a great push for more women in sailing, and you see a lot of action in the Olympics with women really getting to be excellent sailors. And the ocean race now, you have to have in the Volvo 65, you have to have 3 women on board out of 10. So that's going to be a lot of women joining that. Hopefully we get a bunch of teams to do that.
Yeah.
But 30% of the team, that's more than there's been that I can recall.
Yeah.
And on my team in the Etchel and these other programs, I've always had girls on board, and I think they bring a lot of fun, and there's a lot of tasks that they can do a lot better than the guys. It seems they definitely hold their focus better, and they don't get the wandering attention. And
yeah, they don't get distracted as well.
I think, and the conversation is it's different. It's a little lighter, and it's got a lot of fun associated with it. I'm not sure I fully agree with mandating having women on board, but I understand why they do it, and it's really given women an opportunity to get better and get those opportunities. I don't really know the other option, to be honest. And it's kind of a funny situation where I've sailed with some teams where the owner of the boat won't have women on board, and he says, I just can't do it. If I had a woman on the boat, my wife would be a little bit jealous. It just opens up that can of worms that I can't afford.
Mm.
And then we have to get an additional hotel room because who's going to be sharing the room with them? And there are some stumbling blocks that I see that I've been involved with. We had a perfect crew member who happens to be a woman, but then the boss says, we just can't do that. We need to find a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, it's just, that's kind of a weird thing, but I also understand that. And, I don't know, every situation has its, it's good and bad thing that you got to just work around. So,
Yeah. All right.
it
So,
seems like coming on strong though. That's for sure. There's more women than ever.
yeah, with the men's women's offshore double-handed thing coming up in the Olympics in a couple of years, your choice for getting offshore is a good timing, and the fact that it's men and women, like say, that should bring a little more highlight to it as well. So
right, yeah, I'd love to get involved with that. I'm sort of still figuring that all out.
Yeah,
you got to find the right crew member, that's for sure, partner.
Yeah, I keep thinking, all that stuff has definitely passed me by, but I used to love that offshore stuff, and I've always wanted to do like a Gulf of Mexico trip across the Gulf in the Melges, but that's just suicide. So, I'm getting a little bit smarter in my old age.
You still got it.
Yeah, but all right, so let's move on to the sport of sailing. How do we grow it? Do you have any ideas that could help us grow the sport? Get more people involved?
I always hear that people say, the numbers are down and all sorts of, stuff along those lines. I don't study the numbers, but I'll be honest, the events that I go to are pretty big.
Yeah.
J70 midwinters, and there's a series in Davis Island that, we have 50, 60, 80 boats sometimes. The world championship for the J70 is limited to 100. The boats in the Transpac and these offshore races are, now they're these monstrous canting keel, fully powered, all sorts of stuff. And it just constantly changes. And so you have big budget programs that are, a little bit different. Is the middle class sort of snipe sailor still out there traveling with his boat like we did as kids? Not quite as much. You've still got the Lightning class that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
The Etzel class is strong. You've got a lot of these one design classes that are pretty strong, but sure, the cost of entry is a little higher. You have to buy the equipment instead of building it like we used to.
Yeah.
And that's sort of one thing. And the other thing with the sport of sailing is that, we started out in my high school days, we had 16 or 20 teams, whatever it was. And everybody would show up to the regattas, and that was the deal. Now you have, like Point Loma High School, for example, will have, 3, sometimes even 4 teams entered in the one event. And you've got, 100 teams at these events instead of what we had. And then they say, well, the attrition rate is really high. I go, well, yeah, but you started out now with 1,000 people, and you're down to the 200 that you ended with. And we started out with a couple of 150. So yeah, the attrition is down, but you start with so many more, and then so it's not that exciting for a lot of people. So I don't blame them. They know how to sail, but they're going to do more exciting things. And the world is very distracting these days. You got so many other options.
Yeah.
And back in the day, if your parents sailed and you got into sailing, you're kind of a sailor. Now your parents sail, you get into sailing, well, you might get into horses. Who knows what you're going to do? But so many options out there. It's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. All right. So, what's your best advice for new people, new sailors, people that are new to sailing? They go buy them a Catalina 30 or whatever. What's your advice for those type of guys?
Right. So my best advice, I tell this to everyone I sail with, is when you make an adjustment on the one of the control lines, or you do something, you look at the sail or look at the boat and know what changed. Yeah. So if somebody says ease the outhaul, don't just go up there and ease the outhaul, look at the cleat and watch the line go out the cleat. You look at the sail and you see, like, where is the new position of the outhaul and how does the sail look?
Yeah.
If you ease the vang or tighten the vang, how does the sail look, and why is it better in a certain situation? You need to really sort of analyze and understand technically why are you making these changes, and then if you do that and you know all the details, the next thing you're going to be able to do is look up and start making your own decisions, and then you can go. If you're confident, you just make the adjustments and you know better, and then if you're not, you could ask back to the other guys that help make the decisions and say, hey, looks to me like we need more vang on, and then oh yeah, that's a good point. I've been looking at the traffic, and you guys are now. Yeah. We got a team.
Yeah.
Everyone's helping make decisions. That's sort of like, I love it when the crew is telling me what to do. I'm like, finally, we got a group that is, confident and good, and we're getting it done.
Yep. I always tell people to look at the job, not the tool. You know,
Right.
quit.
That's a good way to. That's the way to think.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're sitting there looking at the winch and the winch handle, you're not looking up at the jib that you're pulling in. You got to look at the job,
Right.
not the tool. So, similar thing. That's great advice for new people. All right. So with that, what else do you have to add? Anything else you want to throw out there while I got you online?
Well, no, I mean, I love what you're doing here, Zane. We need to keep this sort of stuff going, and through these hard times, it's a little tricky to figure out how to improve improve their sailing. We can't get out there and actually do it. So we need, things like this. I've been watching a lot of videos on various races. There's a lot of good ocean race videos. There are lots of, Fastnet videos and other classic old videos that sort of, show how times were back in the day. There's videos from like the 49er and NACRA World Championships. And so I've been having fun watching those and learning, how those things are going. And so, we just need to continue to do these things. I've been on all sorts of different rules and other sort of technical conversations, weather. And so.
Very cool.
We've been having a lot of fun, and thank you for putting your effort in.
Hey, it's it gives me something to do.
Right.
This morning I was out doing fiberglass work, but while I'm waiting on it to cure, come in, crank out a video, then I'll head back out and do some more sanding. But
nice. I'm about to do some fiberglass work myself.
Yeah, no, it never ends, does it?
Right.
All right. Well, listen. Thank you, Bill, and everybody. This is Zane with Sailing Views. Once again, this is Bill Hardesty, multiple time world champion, national champion, North American champion. Just a great sailor, an all-around great guy. He's in San Diego. I'm sure I'll get his email. So if any of you guys want to hire him to make you go faster and get you in the right direction, I'm sure he's available.
Thank you, Zane.
Yep.
Thanks for the plug.
Hey, anything. What can I do? All right. Well, thank you very much, Billy, and I'll get with you soon. And everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe to Sailing Views. I have new videos coming out every day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.